Hello friends, and welcome to the 10th episode of Dulcius Ex Asperus. For anyone who's new to this channel, I'll go over some good news, some not so good news, and then give you some ideas for good deeds this week. Okay, who broke the chain letter? Feels like end days every other Wednesday. Today we'll cover setbacks for Doge, a sampling of the things government workers do for you, and the conflicts of interest for Elon Musk and Doge. As always, you'll find a new song in the playlist and a lyric somewhere in this intro. In the last episode, we talked about court orders that government workers be reinstated. This past week, federal workers got another boost from the courts. Thousands of federal workers must be offered the chance to get their jobs back. This is good for them, and it's good for us. Let's talk about why. And just look at that adorable face. This is Jarvis. He works for you. Well, technically, he works for U.S. Customs and Border Protection, but also he works for you. And this is a giant African snail, the kind coming for the cacao beans that give you chocolate and the orange trees that give you orange juice. Dogs like Jarvis are trained to sniff out invasive species that can harm agriculture or spread diseases like swine fever. No one likes losing their snacks at customs, but there's a reason for these laws. Just like there's a reason the United States government releases weather predictions, hunts sea lampreys, watches for solar flares, monitors water levels, and does 1,000 other things every day. You and I don't need to know the details of hydrographic mapping projects and the developmental stages of the African snail, because the U.S. government hires people to specialize in those things. I imagine there's someone listening now thinking, but couldn't the government run better, be more efficient? Absolutely. There was a team devoted to doing just that. It was called 18F. 18F was basically an in-house consultancy to avoid reinventing the wheel. They could solve a problem for one government agency, then turn around and repurpose that solution to help another one. If that sort of thing interests you, I suggest checking out Recoding America by Jennifer Polka. Anyway, Doge is trying to kill 18F too. Musk's ethos is very much move fast and break things. This might work fine for a startup, but the United States government is not a startup. It's infrastructure millions of people depend on. The New York Times put together some neat graphs outlining Elon Musk's financial entanglement with the agencies Doge is now trying to regulate. Between Tesla and SpaceX, there are at least $15.4 billion in government contracts over the past decade. If you include all of his companies, there are at least 20 recent investigations and reviews. His approach to these conflicts is famously adversarial. So now the guy, with numerous companies being investigated by the federal government, is deciding who, in the federal government, gets to keep their job. As Wired points out in their video summarizing Elon Musk and Doge's efforts, at least 5 inspector generals investigating Musk's companies were fired after Trump took office. What's a democracy to do? Well, first, we start by telling ourselves the truth. One, this quote is probably not by George Orwell, but putting that aside, what is happening right now in U.S. politics is not normal, and it is not okay. And in order to deal with any of it, we need to preserve some baseline of truth. And that brings me to good deeds for this week. Local papers and news programs are important for tracking the real-world consequences of government policies. And with local papers dying all over the United States, keeping the ones that are still hanging on alive is a good thing to do. Organizations like ProPublica and Wired and many others are able to do long-form articles that focus on specific issues. These are also important and worthy of your support. You may find that there are no local news organizations in your area. If that's the case, maybe you can find a group of friends and rotate attending school board meetings or local government events. Anything that keeps your community better informed. Until next time, take care of each other.